The planet Vareth Prime was not a friendly place. It was a world of dark forests and tall mountains. It was a world where everything hunted something else. The Galactic Council had sent many ships to this place. They wanted to talk to the creatures who lived here. They wanted to make friends. But every time they tried, something went wrong. The creatures on Vareth Prime were called the Varaki. They stood 7 feet tall. They had black fur that looked like shadows. They had claws that could cut through metal. Their eyes were the color of burning amber, and they glowed in the dark. They were smart. They could talk. They could think. They could build things. But they did not want visitors. 3 ambassadors from the Zenthari race had come to Vareth Prime 5 years ago. The Varaki ate them. 2 diplomats from the Corvex homeworld came 2 years later. They ran away screaming and never came back. The council was ready to give up. They wanted to put a warning around the whole planet. Stay away, danger, death. But the humans had a different idea. Lieutenant Maya Dawson arrived at Outpost Kira 7 on a cold morning in spring. The outpost was small. It had room for only 12 people. It sat on a hill overlooking a valley full of trees that had blue leaves. Maya was a scientist. Her job was to watch the Varaki from far away. She was not supposed to talk to them. She was not supposed to touch them. She was only supposed to look and write reports. Maya was good at her job. She spent her days walking through the forest with a small camera and a notebook. She watched the Varaki hunt. She watched them build their homes from wood and stone. She watched them raise their children. She wrote everything down. She had been on Vareth Prime for 6 months when everything changed. It was a Tuesday afternoon. The sky was gray and the air smelled like rain. Maya was near the eastern ridge, collecting samples of dirt for the scientists back at the outpost. She had a small bag in one hand and a digging tool in the other. She was thinking about dinner. She was thinking about the book she was reading. She was not thinking about Varaki. That was her mistake. She walked around a large rock and stopped. In front of her was a small cave in the hillside, and in front of the cave were 4 small creatures. They were Varaki cubs. Maya knew this right away. She had seen them from far away playing near adult Varaki. But she had never been this close to them. They were the size of large dogs. Their fur was soft and spotted. Their eyes were big and curious. They looked at her like she was the strangest thing they had ever seen. Maya felt her heart beat very fast. She knew what she was supposed to do. The training was clear. Back away slowly. Do not look them in the eyes. Return to base. Report the incident. But Maya did not move. The cubs did not move either. They stared at her. She stared at them. Nobody made a sound. Maya thought about the Zenthari ambassadors who had been eaten. She thought about the Corvex diplomats who had run away. She thought about all the years of failed contact. And she made a decision. She sat down in the grass. The cubs tilted their heads. They had never seen anything like this before. Prey did not sit down. Prey ran. This creature was not running. This creature was just sitting there looking at them with its strange flat face. Maya kept very still. She put her hands in her lap where the cubs could see them. She breathed slowly. She waited. The minutes passed. The gray clouds moved across the sky. A bird called somewhere in the distance. Then one of the cubs moved. It was a female. She had a white patch of fur on her chest that looked like a star. She was the biggest of the 4, and she seemed to be the bravest. She crept forward on her belly, moving very slowly, her eyes fixed on Maya. Maya did not move. The cub came closer, and closer, and closer, until she was right next to Maya's feet. The cub sniffed her boot. Maya had standard military boots. They were made of tough material that could survive heat and cold and water. They were brown and dusty from months of walking through the forest. To Maya, they were just boots. To the cub, they were the most interesting thing in the world. The cub sniffed again. Then she opened her small mouth and bit the toe of the boot. Maya held her breath. The cub chewed on the boot for a moment. It was not food. It did not taste good. But it was hard and strange, and it smelled like nothing she had ever smelled before. The cub sat back and made a small chirping sound. It was a happy sound. Maya could tell. The other 3 cubs had been watching. When they heard the chirp, they started to move forward too. One by one, they crept out of hiding and gathered around Maya's feet. There was a male with dark fur who kept trying to hide behind the others. Maya decided to call him Shadow. There was a female who kept nibbling on everything she could find. Maya called her Nibbles. There was the smallest one, a male who kept falling over his own paws. Maya called him Tumble, and the brave one with the white patch she called Patches. By the time the sun started to go down, all 4 cubs were piled around Maya's feet. They chewed on her bootlaces. They purred like small engines. They fell asleep against her legs. Maya sat in the grass, surrounded by baby predators, and smiled. She knew she had broken 17 different rules. She knew she would have to explain this to her commander. She knew that what she had done was dangerous and stupid, and against every protocol. But as she watched Patches sleep with her small paw resting on Maya's boot, she also knew something else. She would come back tomorrow. Maya did come back the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. Every afternoon, when her work at the outpost was done, she would walk to the eastern ridge. She never brought food. She never brought gifts. She never brought any tools or machines. She only brought herself. The cubs learned to recognize the sound of her footsteps. They would hear her coming from far away. The crunching of leaves, the soft thump of her boots on the forest floor. And they would come running. Patches was always first. She would burst out of the den like a small black ball of fur and race toward Maya with her ears flat and her tail straight up. The others followed close behind. Shadow would try to look calm, but he always ended up running too. Nibbles would chirp the whole way. Tumble would fall at least twice before reaching her. Maya would sit down in the clearing and let them climb all over her. The cubs were growing fast. After 3 weeks, Patches was already bigger than when Maya first found her. Her spots were starting to fade. Her claws were getting longer, but she still acted like a baby. She still wanted to play. She still wanted to chew on Maya's boots. The boots. Always the boots. Maya had never thought much about her boots before. They were just part of her uniform. Brown, sturdy, a little bit ugly, but to the cubs, they were magic. The cubs loved the smell of the boots. They loved the texture. They loved the sound they made when Maya walked. Thump, thump, thump. It was different from any sound on Varath Prime. Varaki walked on soft paws that made almost no noise. But humans walked with heavy steps that announced their presence to the whole forest. One afternoon, Patches stood up on her hind legs and stared at Maya's feet for a long time. Then she dropped down and tried to copy the way Maya walked. It did not go well. Voraki legs were not made for walking like humans. They were meant for running and climbing and pouncing. Patches fell over almost immediately. But she got up and tried again. Maya watched with her mouth open. The cub was trying to imitate her, not just playing. Actually trying to walk the way Maya walked. Patches lifted her front paw high in the air. She brought it down hard against the ground. Thump. She lifted the other paw. Thump. She was stomping. She was copying the sound of Maya's boots. The other cubs stopped what they were doing. They watched Patches stomp around the clearing. Thump, thump, thump. Then Shadow tried it. Then Nibbles. Then even little Tumble, who fell over 3 times but kept getting back up. Soon all 4 cubs were stomping around the clearing. They lifted their paws high and brought them down with all their strength. They were not graceful. They looked silly. But they were making the sound. The human sound. The boot sound. Maya laughed. It was a real laugh. The kind that comes from deep inside and cannot be stopped. It burst out of her like water from a broken pipe. She laughed until her stomach hurt. She laughed until tears ran down her face. The cubs stopped stomping. They stared at her. They had never heard this sound before. Patches walked over to Maya and sat down right in front of her face. The cub tilted her head and opened her mouth. She made a rough, coughing sound. Maya stopped laughing. She looked at Patches. The cub made the sound again. It was not a cough. It was not a growl. It was an attempt to laugh. Patches was trying to copy Maya's laughter. Maya felt something warm spread through her chest. It was not just surprise. It was not just happiness. It was something bigger, something important. These cubs were not just playing with a strange visitor. They were learning from her. They were studying her. They were trying to understand her. That night, Maya made her report to Commander Daniel Ortiz. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been in the Galactic Survey Corps for 30 years. He had seen many strange things, but he had never heard a report like this one. Maya told him everything. The cubs, the boots, the stomping, the attempted laughter. Commander Ortiz was quiet for a long time after she finished. "You know this changes everything," he finally said. "Yes, sir. The Council has been trying to make contact with adult Varaki for decades. They have sent diplomats and scientists and soldiers. They have tried gifts and speeches and shows of strength. Nothing worked. And you have done it with baby animals in 3 weeks." "Cubs, sir," Maya said. "They are called cubs." Ortiz almost smiled. It was the first time Maya had seen him come close to smiling since she arrived at the outpost. "Tell me about the imitation," he said. "You said they copied your walking?" Maya nodded. "Not just my walking. When I crossed my legs yesterday, Tumble tried to fold his back legs under him the same way. When I scratched my head, Nibbles tried to do it too. They watch everything I do, and then they try to do it themselves." "This is significant," Ortiz said. "Very significant. In most species, imitation is how children learn. But they usually imitate their own kind. Their parents. Their family. The fact that they are imitating you." He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. "Continue your observations, Lieutenant," he said. "Document everything, every sound, every movement, every interaction." "Yes, sir." Ortiz turned to leave, then stopped. He looked back at Maya with something new in his tired eyes. It might have been hope. "Maya," he said, using her first name for the first time. "Be careful. Those cubs are cute now, but they will grow up. And somewhere out there, they have parents. Parents who might not be happy that a human has been playing with their children." Maya nodded. She had thought about this. She had worried about it in the dark hours of the night. But she could not stop now. Something important was happening in that clearing. Something that might change everything. "I understand, sir." "Do you?" Ortiz shook his head. "I hope so. Because if you are wrong about these creatures, there will be no one to save you. The nearest support ship is 4 days away. If the adult Varaki decide you are a threat..." He did not finish that sentence either. After he left, Maya sat alone in her small room at the outpost. She looked at her boots. They were covered in small teeth marks now. The laces were ragged from being chewed. The leather was scratched and worn. She should get new boots. The supply ship had brought fresh ones last month. But Maya did not want new boots. These boots had been chosen. These boots had been accepted. These boots were the bridge between two worlds. She fell asleep thinking about Patches and her clumsy stomping walk. In her dreams, she heard the sound of small paws hitting the ground like thunder. Thump, thump, thump. Maya met the mother on a gray morning when storm clouds covered the sky like a dark blanket. She had walked to the clearing like she always did. The forest was quiet. The birds were not singing. The small animals were hiding in their holes. Even the wind had stopped moving. Something was different. Something was wrong. Maya should have turned back. Every part of her training told her to go back to the outpost. When the forest goes quiet, danger is near. This was the first lesson they taught in survival school. But Maya thought about the cubs. They would be waiting for her. Patches would be watching the tree line, ears up, looking for the strange creature who came every day. Maya could not let them down. She entered the clearing. The cubs were not there. Maya stopped walking. Her heart started to beat faster. In 8 weeks of visits, the cubs had always been there. They came running the moment they heard her. But today, the clearing was empty. Then she heard it. A low growl, deep and powerful. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. It was not the playful growl of a cub. It was the warning of a full-grown predator. Maya turned slowly. The mother came out of the trees like a living shadow. She was huge. Maya had seen adult Varaki from far away, through cameras and telescopes. But she had never been this close to one. The mother was 8 feet tall when she stood up straight. Her black fur covered muscles that moved like snakes under her skin. Her claws were as long as Maya's fingers. Her amber eyes glowed with a light that seemed to come from inside her skull. She was the most dangerous thing Maya had ever seen. The mother growled again. The sound was so low that Maya felt it in her bones more than she heard it with her ears. The message was clear. You are in my territory. You are near my children. Give me one reason not to kill you. Maya knew what would happen next if she ran. The Varaki were hunters. They chased prey that ran. It was their nature. It was their instinct. If Maya ran, she would die tired. She thought about the Zenthari ambassadors. They had tried to run. She thought about the Corvex diplomats. They had tried to run too. Everyone who came to this planet tried to run. Maya would not run. She sat down. The mother stopped growling. Her eyes widened. She tilted her massive head to one side, confused. This was not right. This was not how prey acted. Prey was supposed to scream. Prey was supposed to fight. Prey was supposed to run. This small, soft creature with no claws and no fangs was doing none of those things. She was just sitting in the grass like she belonged there. Maya kept her eyes on the ground. She did not look at the mother directly. She had learned from watching the cubs that direct eye contact was a challenge. She did not want to challenge this creature. She just wanted to survive. She put her hands in her lap where the mother could see them. She breathed slowly. In, out, in, out. Her heart was pounding so loud she was sure the mother could hear it. But she did not move. She did not make a sound. The cubs came out from their hiding place behind the mother. They had been there the whole time, pressed against her back legs, watching. Patches was the first to move. She looked up at her mother. She looked at Maya. Then she walked forward. The mother made a sharp sound, a warning, stay back. But Patches did not listen. She walked across the clearing to where Maya sat. She pressed her small body against Maya's leg. She made the purring sound that meant she was happy. The mother watched. Maya did not move. She barely breathed. Patches purred against her leg like a small warm engine. The other cubs crept forward too, Nibbles, Shadow, even little Tumble, who looked more scared than Maya had ever seen him. One by one, they gathered around Maya. They pressed close to her. They claimed her. The mother was still for a long time. She watched her cubs surround the strange creature. She watched them show no fear. She watched them show something that looked like love. Then she started to walk. Maya's breath caught in her throat. The mother moved slowly. Each step brought her closer. Her claws dug into the soft earth, leaving deep marks. Her eyes never left Maya's face. She stopped right in front of Maya, so close that Maya could feel the heat coming from her body, so close that Maya could smell the wild animal scent of her fur, so close that one swipe of those massive claws would end everything. The mother bent down. Her face was inches from Maya's. Her breath was hot and smelled like meat. Maya stayed perfectly still. She did not look up. She did not look away. She just waited. The mother inhaled deeply. She was learning Maya's scent, cataloging it, remembering it. In the language of predators, this was how you learned about something new. You smelled it. You tasted the air around it. You let your body tell you if this thing was food or friend or enemy. Maya waited. Then the mother did something that Maya would remember for the rest of her life. She laid down, not in a crouch, not in a hunting position. She laid down on her side, right next to Maya, and curled her massive body in a half-circle around the human and the cubs. The rain started to fall. Cold drops hit Maya's face and arms. The storm that had been building all morning finally broke. Water poured from the sky in sheets. But Maya was warm. The mother's body blocked the wind. Her fur was thick and soft and surprisingly dry underneath. The cubs pressed closer, forming a pile of warmth around Maya's legs. They sat like that for hours. The rain fell, the thunder rolled, the lightning flashed. And Maya sat in the center of a family of predators, protected by creatures who could kill her with one bite. When the storm finally passed, Maya looked at the mother. The massive Varaki was watching her with those glowing amber eyes. There was no anger in them now. No hunger, no threat. There was curiosity. There was acceptance. There was the beginning of something that might, in time, become trust. Maya reached out slowly. Very slowly. She let her hand rest on the mother's paw. The mother did not pull away. That night, Maya walked back to the outpost with her heart full of something she could not name. She had sat in the mouth of death, and she had not been afraid. She had been tested by a predator, and she had passed. She had done something that no one else in the galaxy had ever done. She had made a friend. The news spread fast. Commander Ortiz sent his report to the Galactic Council. The Council sent the report to every member species. Within 1 week, everyone in the known galaxy was talking about the human woman who had befriended the Varaki. Ships came to orbit Verath Prime. Scientists wanted to study Maya. Diplomats wanted to use her. Politicians wanted to take credit for what she had done. Everyone had ideas. Everyone had opinions. Everyone wanted to tell Maya what to do next. Maya ignored all of them. She continued her daily visits to the clearing. The mother, who Maya had started calling Vera in her head, was always there now. She would watch from the edge of the trees while Maya played with the cubs. Sometimes she would come closer. Sometimes she would let Maya touch her fur. The trust between them grew slowly, like a plant reaching for the sun. The cubs were changing too. They were getting bigger every day. Patches was almost 3 feet tall now. Her spots were gone. Her adult fur was coming in, thick and black and beautiful. But she still acted like a baby around Maya. She still wanted to play. She still wanted to chew on those boots. The stomping game had become something more than a game. Patches had perfected her imitation of human walking. She would march around the clearing with her head held high and her chest pushed out. Her paws came down in a perfect copy of the heel-toe pattern that humans used. Thump, thump, thump. The other cubs had developed their own styles. Shadow walked very slowly and carefully, like he was sneaking up on something. Nibbles had a quick, bouncy step that made her look excited all the time. Tumble, who had grown into a graceful young male despite his clumsy childhood, walked with a slow and steady rhythm that made him look wise. But the most amazing thing was what they said while they stomped. Maya had been learning the Varaki language for months. It was not easy. Their words were made of growls and chirps and clicks that human throats could not copy. But she could understand some of it now. She knew the sounds for food and water and sleep. She knew the sounds for happy and sad and angry, and she knew what Patches was saying when she stomped. Big human now? Maya stared the first time she heard it. She was sure she had misunderstood, but Patches said it again. Big human, strong boots, Walk like thunder. Patches marched past Maya with her nose in the air. I am big human now. The other cubs joined in. They stomped in circles around Maya, chanting in their growling voices. Big human! Strong boots! Walk like thunder! Maya felt tears in her eyes. She did not know if they were happy tears or amazed tears or something else entirely. These creatures, these children of apex predators, were pretending to be human. They were copying her. They were honoring her in the only way they knew how. The mother watched from the tree line. Maya could have sworn she saw something like pride in those amber eyes. Over the next few months, the phrase spread. Other Voraki cubs heard about the stomping game. They came to watch. They went home and tried it themselves. Their parents saw them marching around like humans and asked what they were doing. Being big humans, the cubs would say. Walking like thunder. The adult Voraki did not understand at first. Humans were small and soft. Humans had no claws or fangs. Why would anyone want to be like a human? But then they watched more carefully. In Voraki culture, imitation was the highest form of respect. When a young Voraki wanted to honor a great hunter, they would copy the way that hunter walked. When they wanted to show respect to an elder, they would use the elder's movements. To imitate someone was to say that you admired them, that you wanted to be like them, that you thought they were worthy. The cubs were not just playing a game, they were making a statement. They were saying that humans were worthy of respect. This was a new idea for the Voraki. They had always seen other species as prey or enemies or nuisances. Nothing in the galaxy was as strong as them. Nothing was as fierce. Nothing was worthy of their attention. But here was a species that had done something new. A single human had walked into their territory without weapons. She had sat down in the face of death. She had waited patiently while they decided what to do with her. And when they had accepted her, she had treated them with kindness and respect. The cubs saw something in Maya that the adults had missed. Strength was not just about claws and teeth. Courage was not just about fighting. There were other kinds of power in the universe. The power to wait, the power to be patient. The power to show no fear even when you had every reason to be afraid. The humans had this power. The cubs could see it, and they wanted it for themselves. Maya learned all of this slowly, through months of watching and listening. She learned that the stomping was spreading beyond her small family of Voraki. She learned that adults were talking about the strange human who had won the trust of their children. She learned that something was changing in Voraki society. And she learned that the elders were watching. One afternoon, Maya arrived at the clearing to find a new Voraki waiting for her. He was old. His fur was streaked with silver. His muzzle was covered with scars from many battles. He sat very still beside Vera, his amber eyes fixed on Maya. The cubs did not run to greet her. They stayed back, quiet and respectful. Even Patches was still. Maya understood. This was someone important, someone powerful. She bowed her head slightly and sat down in her usual spot. The old Voraki watched her for a long time. Then he spoke. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. Maya did not understand all of the words, but she understood enough. "You are the one," he said, "the one who sat down." Maya nodded. The old Voraki rose to his feet. He was massive, even bigger than Vera. He walked toward Maya with slow, careful steps. He stopped in front of her and looked down. "My grandchildren stomp around their dens saying they are big humans," he said. "They lift their paws and bring them down like thunder. They say it makes them strong." Maya did not know what to say, so she said nothing. The old Voraki bent down until his face was close to hers. She could see the years in his eyes, the battles, the losses, the wisdom. "I have lived for many seasons," he said. "I have killed many enemies. I have led my people through many dangers. I thought I knew what strength was." He paused. His breath was warm on Maya's face. I was wrong. He straightened up and looked at the cubs, who were watching with wide eyes. True strength is not in the claw, he said. True strength is in the heart. You have taught my grandchildren this. You have taught all of us. He turned and walked back toward the tree line. Before he disappeared into the shadows, he looked back at Maya one more time. The elders will speak, he said. The world will change. Then he was gone. Maya sat in the clearing for a long time after that. The cubs came to her eventually, piling around her feet like they always did. Patches put her paw on Maya's boot and made her purring sound. But Maya was not thinking about the cubs. She was thinking about what the old Voraki had said. The world will change. She hoped he was right. 18 months had passed since Maya first sat down in the grass beside a den of curious cubs. The day of formal first contact had finally arrived. The Voraki had chosen the meeting place. It was a natural bowl in the mountains, surrounded by walls of gray stone that rose up toward the sky. The Voraki called it the speaking place. It was where they gathered to make important decisions. It was where they had met as a people for thousands of years. Maya stood at the entrance and tried to control her breathing. The stone bowl was enormous. It could hold thousands of Voraki, and today it did. They sat on the stone ledges that rose up from the center, row after row of black fur and glowing amber eyes. They were hunters and healers, warriors and teachers, elders and younglings. The whole Voraki nation had come to see this moment. The human delegation was small. Ambassador Patricia Cole led the group. She was a tall woman with gray hair and a calm face that hid her nervousness. Commander Ortiz stood beside her, along with 6 security officers who looked like they wanted to be anywhere else in the galaxy. Maya stood a little bit apart from the group. She was wearing her old uniform, the one she had worn for 18 months of daily visits to the clearing, and she was wearing her boots. The boots were almost destroyed now. They were covered in tiny teeth marks from when the cubs were small. The laces had been chewed so many times that Maya had replaced them with simple cord. The leather was scratched and worn and faded. But the Voraki had asked her to wear them. They had insisted. These boots were famous now. The oldest Voraki in the assembly rose from his seat at the highest point of the stone bowl. It was the same elder who had visited Maya in the clearing months ago. His name was Koth Varan, and he had led his people for almost 40 years. The crowd went silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. "We have watched many species come to our world," Koth Varan began. His voice echoed off the stone walls. "We have seen the weak ones who brought weapons because they were afraid. We have seen the soft ones who told lies because they thought we were stupid. We have seen the scared ones who ran when they saw our true faces." He paused. His amber eyes found Maya in the crowd below. Then this one came. Every Voraki in the assembly turned to look at Maya. Thousands of glowing eyes, all focused on one small human. "She carried no weapons," Koth Varan continued. "She spoke no lies. And when we showed ourselves to her, she did not run." The old leader began to walk down from his high seat. His movements were slow but steady. The crowd parted to let him pass. "She sat down," he said. Death was looking at her, and she sat down. She waited. She showed no fear. Koth Varan reached the bottom of the stone bowl. He stood in front of Maya, towering over her like a mountain of fur and muscle and ancient power. "Our cubs call themselves big humans now," he said. And Maya heard warmth in his rough voice. "They stomp like thunder and claim her strength as their own. This is the highest honor our people can give." He reached down with one massive paw. Very gently, he touched Maya's boot. "We have decided," he announced to the crowd. "The Voraki will walk with the humans, not below them, not above them. But beside them, as pack, the stone bowl exploded with sound. Every Varaki voice rose at once. It was not words. It was something older, something deeper, a song of acceptance that had not been sung for 1,000 years. The sound filled the mountain bowl and spilled out across the valley, and beneath that sound, Maya heard something else, a familiar rhythm, a pattern she knew by heart. The stomping had started. Patches was leading it. She was almost fully grown now, nearly as tall as Maya. She stood on one of the stone ledges with her head held high and her chest pushed out. Her paws came down against the stone like hammers. Thump, thump, thump. Shadow joined her, then Nibbles, then Tumble, then other cubs that Maya had never met, then adolescents, then adults. Within minutes, thousands of Varaki were stomping their feet against the ancient stone. The rhythm shook the mountain. It rolled across the valley like the thunder they were trying to copy. They were not just making noise. They were making a statement. They were declaring to the universe that they had found a species worthy of their respect. Ambassador Cole leaned close to Maya's ear. Her calm face had broken into an expression of pure wonder. "How did you do it?" she whispered. "Decades of failed contact, 3 eaten ambassadors, 2 traumatized diplomats. And you did it in weeks. How?" Maya watched her Varaki family stomping proudly on the stone ledge. Patches caught her eye and grinned a predator's grin, all teeth and joy. "I sat down," Maya said, "and I let them come to me." The ceremony continued for hours. There were speeches and songs and ancient rituals that no outsider had ever witnessed. The human delegation was formally welcomed into Varaki society. Plans were made for future meetings. Ideas were shared. Friendships were begun. But Maya barely noticed any of it. She was watching the cubs, her cubs, the 4 small creatures who had first sniffed her boots on a gray afternoon 18 months ago. They had grown so much. They were almost adults now. Soon they would have their own territories, their own families, their own lives, but they would never forget her. As the sun began to set and the ceremony finally ended, Patches made her way through the crowd to Maya's side. The young Varaki pressed against her leg, just like she had done when she was small enough to hold. "Big human," Patches said in her growling voice. "Strong boots." Maya put her hand on Patches' head and scratched behind her ear. "Big Varaki," she replied, using the sounds she had learned over many months. "Strong heart." Patches made her rough laughing sound, the one she had learned by copying Maya all those months ago. Years later, when the Human-Varaki Alliance had grown into one of the most powerful groups in the galaxy, people would ask when first contact really happened. Some said it was the ceremony at the speaking place. Some said it was when Koth Varen touched Maya's boot. Some said it was when Vera laid down beside her in the rain. But Maya knew the truth. First contact happened the moment a curious cub named Patches bit her bootlace and decided that this strange, soft, clawless creature might be worth knowing. Everything else was just stomping. Maya kept her old boots for the rest of her life. They sat in a glass case in her home on Earth, worn and chewed and precious beyond measure. When people asked about them, she would tell the story of 4 small cubs who wanted to walk like thunder. And sometimes, late at night when the house was quiet, she would take the boots out of their case and hold them close. She would remember the feeling of soft fur against her legs. She would remember the sound of small paws hitting the ground. She would remember the day when a predator laid down beside her and chose peace instead of violence. She would remember that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is sit down and wait. The end.